Well, the left forgets that their favorite president, Barack Obama, was nicknamed the deporter-in-chief, and that the Obama administration, not the Trump administration, built cages that hold many illegal children at the U.S.-Mexico border. Anything President Trump does, the left will tear down, even if it means burning cities to protest ICE. And we've seen a lot of what's been happening in Portland and in Los Angeles and many other cities. Well, let's discuss with the senior editor of Post Millennial. He's also the author of Unmasked: Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy, Andy Ngo. And also with us is the former sheriff of Milwaukee and also author of Cop Under Fire, Sheriff David Clarke. Boy, it's so great to have both of you guys. And when we've seen some of these protests, it's really gotten out of hand. And Andy, in your hometown, you were born in Portland, Oregon. Boy, it looks like a war zone these days. There are just some of these scenes in, the last day or two. Does this represent what the people of Portland want, and how is it going to get under control there? We've seen what's been happening in L.A., Andy.
It represents the interests of the fringe of violent extremists who are a small number, but nevertheless are loud and were involved in the riots 5 years ago and were never held accountable. Portland, like Seattle and some of these other very progressive jurisdictions where Democrats have complete control locally, county, and at the state level, you see how they can turn a blind eye and allow the violence to go on and on. Now, Portland hasn't experienced the worst riots so far. I would say that goes to LA because of the mass looting, but it has experienced now the longest. The riots have died down in LA, but they've continued in Portland, and they involved, based on those who have been arrested so far, many of the people who were arrested and let go in 2020.
What's the situation in terms of potential National Guard and having some other authorities in there, Andy?
Well, whilst the violence was escalating in Portland, Democrat lawmakers, of course, have put forward a bill that would make it more difficult for the federal government to nationalize the Oregon State National Guard. So that kind of illustrates what I was just saying about how the violence by the violent far left on the ground is in some ways approves of by the Democrats in elected positions of power.
Well, that makes it, of course, even more difficult for citizens and obviously for the city that you love to keep the peace. Sheriff David Clarke, take a listen also to what Andy's sort of talking about, some of this radical comments that we've seen. And boy, we've seen a lot of them this week. Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar had this to say about our country.
I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries.
Sheriff Clarke, worst countries. She's from Somalia, and she is now saying because of the situation with ICE going to cities like Los Angeles and Portland and many others, that it's the worst country on human rights, America. Is she kidding me?
Low IQ is what we're dealing with here. Ilhan Omar, I think she's the one that married her brother, right? Look, this anti-ICE inflammatory rhetoric is at a fever pitch. And something more aggressive and assertive is going to have to be done. But that's a call from the acting ICE director with Pam Bondi and others to decide what to do about it. But they're going to have to up the ante because they have to protect these men and women on the front lines. You see the film, you see the footage, you just showed it. These are untenable situations and conditions to have to work under. It's already dangerous enough to be an ICE agent when you're tracking down criminal, illegal aliens, and then to have these, dissent groups right in their faces. They need to fortify these ICE detention centers. I'd put up an inner and an outer perimeter, keep these people far away and back off of these agents so they can go about doing their job. These centers are being used as a staging area by people like Omar and people like Ocasio-Cortez and Representative Vasquez in New Mexico, using it as a stage to, as a prop, if you will. And that's why I said you got to build an inner and outer perimeter to protect these agents so they can go about doing their job, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because they certainly feel like they can't. Sheriff Clark, before I let you go, too, the doxing issue, that's another thing. There have been all these people on the left who've been talking about putting out the names, even the addresses of ICE agents. How complicated does that make it for them, Sheriff?
Well, it makes it even worse. It's another tactic they're using. It's why that Pam Bondi, that's why I said they're going to have to be a little more assertive. Dox these people that they arrest. Put their pictures out there, put their names out there, let the world know these are the people who are assaulting federal officers and who have been indicted, for heaven's sakes. But the big thing is to keep them away from these agents while they're doing their job.
Yeah, because their job is tough enough as it is. And then to have these protesters really going after them is making it so difficult for them. Both of you guys, thank you very much. Got to have both of you back on soon. And thank you for all you do to keep America safe. We really appreciate it, guys. Have a good rest of the weekend.